So we've never found a mummy in a sarcophagus. They're granite boxes. These sarcophaguses are just a giant granite box that has been perfectly cut out of one giant slab of granite. So it's not four walls buckled together. It was a bowl cut out of a giant boulder. And then they smoothed out everything, made a perfect box out of one slab.
With sandpaper.
With sandpaper, yeah.
Assuming, right?
Keep in mind, these are just slaves with chisels.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Even though granite is the second hardest stone on Earth next to diamond. Therefore, you need a granite chisel or a diamond chisel to even pull this off. But then you think about it, it was perfectly shaped at 90-degree angles where we have to have laser precision accuracy to even determine the level of error on this.
Whoa.
So we can barely accomplish this to this day without our modern technology to help us do it.
So more people talking about how impossible it was for people in the past to have made stuff out of stone. This is so tiresome. So first of all, just look it up. If you're interested in how the ancient Egyptians made their stuff, there's a whole science that explores this and we have a lot of information. One thing I think people don't realize is how long a period of time we're talking about, from like the early to the middle to the late Egyptian, empire. This was, a couple of thousand years. We have a lot of artifacts. We have a lot of mummies, a lot of coffins and sarcophagi. Over time, we could see the evolution of the techniques that they used. We have sarcophagi that are partially completed. It's like they're halfway done, so we could see that's pretty good evidence to what methods they were using. And I love at the end there how he says, "Oh, well, maybe we could have done it if we had like a huge amount of time and resources to put into it." It's like, yeah, you think the Egyptian pharaohs had lots of time and resources to put into things like making their tombs? Like they had decades to do this, years at least, if not decades, depending on how long they lived. But they had thousands of people who could work on building stuff that they want to do it. And again, it's no mystery here. We know a lot of the techniques that were used. They had, first of all, copper tools. They did use hammers and chisels. They did also use sand and grit. So when they are cutting the straight lines, they would have basically what are called flat saws, so no teeth. And then they would put like quartz in the groove, and they would run the saw over the groove, over that grit, over that quartz, which would wear away the granite. Yes, it's a laborious process. That's how they did things. They brute forced it over years and decades, because that's how, if you're running an empire 4,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, that's how you got stuff done. And then they marvel at how polished it was. You know how they got the granite so polished? They polished it. They would polish it with gritty stuff. And yes, it would take time. So they would cut straight lines, and then they would polish it. They would chisel out the middle, and then they would polish it. And they could make very precise, very ornate stuff out of stone. It's not a mystery. So this just kind of marveling really from abject ignorance about how people did things in the past. When we have, for hundreds of years, we have scientists, archaeologists, historians who have made it their life's work to study the artifacts that we have and to try to piece together how these things were done. All that information is there. Just look it up if you're interested in ancient Egypt. He also makes another claim, which is just odd, that there were no mummies found in sarcophagi. It's just not true. Again, we have uncovered a large number of Egyptian mummies. So first of all, most of them are in a coffin. That's the thing. Like when you see like the covering that's sort of shaped like the person inside as they would be in life. That's made of wood and then ornately decorated with gold and painted, etc. Then that would be placed inside of a stone sarcophagus, which was usually red granite. Was like if you were wealthy and powerful, you would get red granite, but they also used limestone and other types of granite. And sometimes there's even nested sarcophagi, like they would be in more than one. Yeah, that was the standard, and we found many of them. So this claim that there were no mummies inside the sarcophagi is just not true. Then again, they marvel at how they could have moved these sarcophagi. He straight up is wrong about the modern cranes, that we have cranes that could lift over 1,000 tons. I think he acknowledges that later in the comments. That's just a straight up mistake. But they had techniques too. And again, those techniques evolved over time. At one point, they encountered ancient Greece, and then they start using levers and other technology they didn't have early on in the process. But they could, move the slabs with pulleys and stuff, and even just with human labor by pushing it over wooden planks with wet sand to reduce the friction. And they would use sand in order to slowly lower it down into the level. You basically put it onto a bunch of sand, then you take the sand away in order to lower it down. Again, laborious, sure. Everything they did was laborious, but that's what they did. This was a major, massive, nationwide project, that they were engaged in to do this kind of stuff. So the information is all there. Look it up if you're curious. This sort of shooting from the hip, oh, how could this possibly have been? We don't know how, we couldn't do this today. It's all nonsense. This is just part of this narrative that aliens must have done it or whatever. They are lying to us. Again, there's this just deep-seated subculture on TikTok that whatever they say must not be true. It's all just childish conspiracy theories. This information is there. Just look it up.